This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we go.
Live from the bell tower, taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Break the Bell Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the one and only Break the Bell Podcast.
Hello, beautiful bell breakers.
I hope it's the one and only. I
You
mean,
know,
I didn't
we
like,
never checked.
I was going to say, I never stop and check to see if there was another one out there, so I'm hoping
What if
this
people
is
are
the
getting
one.
on some other site and they're like, wait, this isn't the one I thought it was?
Or they're finding our site. They're like, shit, this is not
Yeah, I
the
know.
break.
This
Like,
is-
these guys went downhill fast.
Yeah, right?
As far as I know, this is the one and only Break the Bell podcast.
Yes. If it's not, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, we've been
We'll
doing
take
this.
out the other guys.
I mean, 2.5 years into it, you'd think
Right.
we'd know by now.
Yeah,
think
you'd
they'd
think so.
reach out and be like, hey, we're going to sue your ass.
There's a podcast out there, Break a Bell.
And they're probably pissed off every time somebody accidentally
Yeah.
steers to us. They're like, shit, those assholes again?
Yeah.
That's what we are. We're just
are.
the assholes.
We are.
So, how's everybody doing out there? Shannon's already in the comments. She's here. She says. Shannon says,
Shannon?
I'm here with a lot of ease. And then she says, how are my favorite kids? Shannon,
One and only.
I love being your favorite kids. We will always do whatever we can to be your favorite kids, even if it means losing every other two listeners that we have. At least we're your favorite kids. Shannon also says, definitely assholes, but it tracks. Good. I'm glad to hear that. Just so y'all are aware, if you didn't get the memo, we are going to be graced this evening with, once again, a returning guest, one of our favorite guests that we've had on. That's why we keep having him on so much.
Right.
That is the great Remso Martinez of the On the Run podcast. So in just a couple of minutes, we're going to have him on. He's going to teach us how to make money in this disaster of an economy that we have right now.
We haven't had him on since he's gotten married. Do you think he's aged 20 years?
He-
put
I-
on 150 pounds.
He's going
lost
to
his
come
hair?
on. He's going to, there's no humor left in
Yeah,
his
right.
life. His soul has been sucked out of his body.
He
It's
just
just gonna be
stares off into the horizon.
yes, it's like, how's it going, guys? It's like, this is not the Remso we
Yeah, right.
remember. No, this is married Remso. Sorry. So he's going to be on in, like I said, in just a couple minutes. He's already waiting. Last I checked, he had to take a piss. So we'll do our pre-show banter, and then we'll wait for him to piss. I mean, I don't know how long that's going to take, but we'll fill the time, I guess.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we're live, just as we are every single Monday
Yeah,
night.
and I dressed up tonight for Remso.
You did.
The last couple weeks, I've had my work shirt on. You know, it's like been a mad dash, and tonight I decided to
Tonight
dress
you're
up
like,
a little bit.
I want to impress
Yes,
Remso.
yes,
I think
I
last
need to-
time Remso was on, you had your cowboy hat on.
That's
So,
right. I forgot about that.
so you gotta impress Remso.
Yes.
You gotta live up to his expectations. Before we get into the show, before we start talking about how to make money, hopefully we actually learn something here and learn how, because I could use all the help I could get
Yeah,
when it
right.
comes to making money. So before we get into that, we got to mention our sponsors, which are making us money because they're our sponsors.
Right.
That is Run Your Mouth Coffee at rymcoffee.com. They are a coffee company that supports your right to free speech, your right to all the individual liberties, but first and foremost, free speech. And they make really fucking good coffee. I mean, who doesn't like good coffee?
Right.
If you don't like good coffee,
then you probably don't like free speech.
yeah. I mean, those things go together.
do. They
I
really
mean,
do.
you either like coffee and like free speech, or you hate coffee and you are the enemy of free speech.
Remember when Meghan Markle was with her husband? I don't remember which one it is, and he's like, all like, I don't understand this free speech thing. Sip tea.
Yes. Yeah, because you're drinking tea. That's why you don't understand free speech, because you drink tea.
Yeah.
Nobody, I mean, that's why we threw all the fucking tea in the
Nobody
freaking
wants
Boston Harbor, because the two don't go together. Free speech or the Constitution, none of that goes together with tea. Coffee and Constitution, they're pretty much rolls right off the tongue.
Does. It really does.
Go to RYM. Shannon says Bill's got his sexy panties on for Remso.
It's true.
Let's interrupt our promo for go to rymcoffee.com. Tell them we sent you by using the promo code Break the Bell. Wow, it's early today. Break the Bell, and you'll get 10% off your purchase plus free shipping, and that's a freaking awesome deal. You get to drink delicious coffee and support a company that supports you. At the end of the day. So who doesn't love that? rymcoffee.com. As always, we have our merch website, our merch sales site at breakthebell.bigcartel.com, where you can get wonderful merchandise such as the I Will Not Eat Your Bugs t-shirt, the We Are Not Your Pawns t-shirt, which is my personal favorite. And then we have our classic logo t-shirt and some mugs and some other stuff. So check that out. Support us a little more if you want to give us help us out a little more than just like listening, which is what we really want you to do anyway. Go to the store, breakthebell.bigcartel.com, buy a shirt, support our freaking thing that we got going on here. Represent, I guess.
Absolutely.
Represent Break the Bell. That's, again, breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Don't miss our new show. Me and my brother Dan Smots host a morning 30-minute segment, which turned into a 40-minute segment last week for some reason, known as Two Scoops.
Heat it.
Yeah, we just, like, as podcasters do, we say this is our cutoff point, and we just blow past that because that's what podcasters do. That's the Two Scoops morning news show. That's 7 p.m. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, as long as we feel like doing it that morning. So check that out. It's live tomorrow morning on the System is Down podcast channel, and then back here at the Break the Bell channel for Thursday's episode. So make sure you check that out. It's a blast. That's all I got to say for this pre-show. That's the housework we got to do here. You got anything?
No, nothing.
Check us out all over social media. We can't forget that.
Hit the like, smack it.
Smack that like button. Smack that subscribe button. Help us get our YouTube channel back up to what it was before we got nuked.
They can nuke us again.
Yes. I mean, the more we get, the better chance we have of getting nuked. So we want to go for number 2. So help us out there. Otherwise, I'm ready to get Remso in here to talk about making money, because, I mean, that at the end of the day, that's all I want is to make that, what is it, make that bread? Is that what the cool kids are saying these days?
I don't know.
I'm not a cool kid, so I don't know. We're going to get into this intro, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by the illustrious Remso Martinez. We'll be right back.
What did you say?
You talking to me?
What the heck are you talking about?
What did you say?
What did you say?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What are you saying?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Well, maybe he was talking to me.
What did you say?
Talk to me.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Talk to me, baby.
Did you just say?
What did you say?
You listen to me. Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Remso Wilfred Martinez.
You
Remso.
know, I gotta tell you, Bill, It's no longer smack that like button. I'm changing the dynamic here. We're calling it spank that like button.
I like it.
Spank
I like
that
it.
Like it owes you money. Spank it like a dirty whore. Just go ahead and just spank it. Grab a little and spank it again. Spank that like button until it turns red.
Why do you think Bill's really wearing his sexy panties today? It's not.
That's right.
It's so we can get more likes, spanked likes. We're turning
Today's
this.
episode is brought to you by Manscaped. When you gotta go ahead and slip into your man panties, you don't want the bush. Like breaking out, looking like that place from Avatar, if all the blue people going out. And
Yes.
in real terms, those are called crabs. But yeah, I can just assume.
So, Remso, as I put in the description of the show, we tentatively are going to talk about these things, but as every time you come on the show, that's going to go off the rails immediately, and you joined us in true fashion, and here we are, off the rails. How's it going? How you been?
It's been a minute. It's
Yeah,
good. You know, at the beginning of January of this year, I got back from Las Vegas, and Las Vegas has been recovering very, very slowly since the lockdowns of 2020.
Oh, I thought you were recovering slowly from your trip to Vegas.
I was also recovering slowly from that. You know, this is brought to you by Gatorade and Bad Decisions. I learned something really interesting when I was there, that they had more money spent in Las Vegas in 2021 than they had people the last 5 years. So you would think that with the drop of people, that would mean there was a drop in money. But no, what was happening was Vegas was emptier and people were spending more money. It's because they were getting a certain type of clientele. It's because they were getting people from Dubai. It's because they were getting the rich and wealthy from Europe, which was opening up. It's because they were getting the rich and wealthy from around the world that were coming to Vegas because they knew there were going to be less people there. And because of that, because they're all surrounded by each other, it's a meet the Joneses, it's a compete with the Joneses effect. Everyone was spending more money. And that's what we're living through right now. We had a giant stock market crash at the beginning of the year. We had another stock market crash when Russia went ahead and invaded Ukraine.
Well,
and now
I
we're
thought
entering into this housing bubble.
I thought the economy was booming at the beginning of the year. That's what I heard.
It was for a little bit, but around early February, we started to see everything dip as Russia was staging tanks and everything around the Ukrainian border. That's when you saw a fear dip. In January, that's when people were saying that with inflation, with the threat of Russia going into Ukraine, people are already selling. So you saw a slight dip in January, and that's when all the bells were going off. That's when people were saying the crash is coming soon. When is it going to happen? Well, we've had 2 crashes this year as a result of that. People usually talk about the crash before it happens, and that preeminates the crash. Sometimes people don't know whether or not it's a wag the dog situation. Does the tail wag the dog or vice versa? And that's where we're in. And now, after several months, we have found ourselves in the best recession, non-recession we can imagine, where consumer spending is still up despite gas prices, food prices, electricity, where people are still having to go into work. We still have those horrendous job numbers from the last year. So it's this weird situation where you're going to see a lot of people talk about, look at all the money that's being spent. Yeah, GDP was down 2 quarters. But, people are still spending money. People are still buying shit. People are still going to work. Yeah, because they have to buy things. Right. Yeah, because they have to go to work still. Yeah. So this is a weird time to be alive. But I've been telling people over On the Run, if you want to make money right now, if you want to drastically change your life, this is another one of those opportunities. 2020 was a big one for a lot of people, but we're about to see this be another big opportunity.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because everybody's talking about all the negativity surrounding the economy right now. But every time I see you post something, it's like, dude, go out and make fucking money. This is your time to make money. It's like, Remso, come on the show and tell people how to make money during this time, because it's not you just saying that, hey, this recession or whatever we're calling it these days is weird. It's a odd situation we're finding ourselves in. I popped up this article here that the New York Times said this economic moment rewrites the rules, and is pretty much saying the exact same thing. It's saying we're headed for a recession, but it has many of the markers of a boom, because like you said, people are spending money. There's not a lack of jobs like you see in most recessions. There's not like a lack of I don't know, work out there. There's plenty of jobs out there. It's like the opposite. It's not like the supply's too high and the demand's too low. It's the opposite. The demand's too high, but the supply's too low when it comes to not only the jobs but also
I got to
products.
fight that in the housing market this last year when we got a new house. I mean, trying to get a house, I mean, they were gone like that. It was just insane.
Mm-hmm. So what are you
look
seeing
at
with
how
all
it is
this?
for cars still.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what are you seeing with all this right now?
I went ahead and on my Substack, which people can find at remso.substack.com, I've gone ahead and written some pieces that are going to be sent out to email subscribers throughout the week. So I highly recommend people go ahead and subscribe to that in between episodes of On the Run, because things are changing drastically. And one of the things that I went ahead and wrote last night, which I'm going to review again and send out within a day or so, is, what am I doing with my money? Now, I'm not a financial advisor legally. I have to tell people that I'm just a guy on the internet. If you make the same choices I'm making and things go bad for you, well, that's a horrible idea, and you shouldn't listen to me. But for those of you that want to know what I'm doing, because so far I've been pretty much right about the last 2 years, especially predicting what the Biden economy would look like. Here's how it is: people are buying stuff. What are the rich buying though? They're buying assets. What we're seeing in China, India, and other developing countries is that they're buying gold. You hear that and you think we're in like a World War II scenario where the United States is still on the gold standard and where gold is still, the standard of which we're trading things in a pre-dollar dominant economy. So we're seeing people go back to that. BlackRock and Vanguard were the number one purchasers of residential real estate in 2021.
That's scary.
I mean, they're pushing us towards a renter's nation.
Yeah.
And beyond that, still, if people want to go ahead and make something of themselves despite all the shit going on, especially everything that happened a couple of years ago, this is still one of the best opportunities ever, because the internet is still the great equalizer for many people. The United States had more millionaires come out of 2020 than at any other point in the past decade. And I think 2021 saw more people leave. That's why we had the Great Resignation. So my advice to people is this: if you had that 6 months emergency savings, the Dave Ramsey method all down, you were fine. But just working your one job can only go so far. Just hoping that your boss won't get rid of you is only something you can rely on so much. Something I talk about regularly is cash flow, having multiple streams of active and passive income, because you have to be able to have 3 things right now. You have to be able to move as quickly as you possibly can. And I'm talking physically. Remote work for a lot of people is out of reach, but you have to be in an opportunity where if things were to change, your job is something that can quickly move to remote. For some people, that's going to be hard, depending on their industry. But sadly, that's just one of the truths. If you can't move quickly, if you can't work from anywhere in the world, you're going to have a bad time. Secondly, if you don't have 2 to 3 extra additional sources of active and passive income, the type of things I talk about on my show, what you're doing is you're increasing the timeline for how long it's going to take you to not only retire, but also be financially independent. The one good thing that came out of the lockdowns is that more Americans, I think 30% of Americans with a bank account, finally opened up a savings account and filled it with at least $500. Your average American has less than $1,000 in savings. I think 1 in 6 Americans has $1,000 in savings. If you didn't have that, things were going to be rough. But I mention that because, things get hard. You could go ahead and be in a situation where can you go ahead and re-up that cash supply should something happen? You lose a job. Your kid has a medical bill or something. Having that money come in that you don't even have to worry about. It's there, you pay it, and you're still investing. You're still buying other assets and goods and resources. You're good. And then the third thing is understanding how are you your best advocate? A lot of people online, a lot of entrepreneurial influencers and stuff, they're going to tell you, quit your job, eat rice and beans, live in a dumpster, wear a garbage bag, and hustle until you become a millionaire. But I think I'm proof, especially over the past year where I became a private investor in a large, business here that was a small business. Now it's a large business here in Milwaukee. And I went ahead and became a partner with a silent partner of mine in a drop shipping business that we're launching soon. So it was finding ways where I can work my day job, which is the primary source of my income and my number one generator for wealth, but still find a few hours throughout the week to do everything I'm doing: contract work, side hustle work, starting a business in one way, shape, or form. The more things that you own, the more things that you can take ownership of, the more rare and specialized skills you can obtain. So that way you're regularly working and bringing in more money. That's going to help you. And I mean, it's not just a recession thing. When I got married earlier in the summer, I told my wife, we can probably do a couple of months, and then you're probably going to have to go out and find a job soon. So that way, both of us are working. Like, what if something happens to me? What if I can't work?
Right.
And we were taking a trip to see family in Michigan in July, and I just realized that this is the most amount of time I've spent with her in about a year, because I came out here by myself.
Yeah.
And I had to build up from stage one. So I looked at her and I said, "Sweetheart, how about you take the month of August off and we just spend time together, and we just go on some trips and we just have fun. We just, catch up for long times." And not many people can do that. Not many people can. I was able to buy my time back with her. And that's a freedom that a lot of people don't have, especially now. Have I felt the pinch of things? Oh, absolutely. But I had a plan for how to handle things as everything got more expensive. A lot of people didn't. So those three things are just the baseline of what people really need to consider when dealing with the situation, recession or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get more into like you talking about how to make money, save money, all that stuff. What did you see going into? Because you said for the last 2 years you predicted all this stuff. Especially, I mean, I think anybody with the slightest bit of brain in their head could have seen the Biden economy turning into what it turned into. But explain more of what you're talking about, how you predicted basically the last 2 years, specifically this year. Like, what did you see going into 2022 that you're like, this is what's going to happen? I need to do something ahead of the game.
It was the ballooning in which we were printing money at unprecedented amounts. That had been something that people like Dr. Tom Woods and others had been preaching to people since I was in college, that we can't go ahead and continue to print our way into prosperity. And what we saw in 2020 was that we were just spending money on stupid shit. That giant spending bill that Trump went ahead and passed with the Republicans and the Democrats that gave us all a few $1,000s. Less than 1% of that overall COVID relief bill, the CARES Act, I think is what it was called. Less than 1% of it actually went out to direct payments. And then, not much more went towards aid, research for the vaccines, and all this other emergency relief. It was going to Howard College. It was going to the Kennedy Center. It was paying for congressional office upgrades and jet upgrades and all this other stuff. And it was a giant spending spree because they don't like to pass taxes anymore. They don't like to increase taxes. That's why they went ahead and, they're going to go ahead and create 87,000 more IRS agents, because it's unpopular to be the person that increased taxes when you voted on that, but you can go ahead and add 87,000 more goons to go ahead and enforce the current laws, which are horrible. And on top of that, you just go ahead and continue to print money.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing for me. But also, we have this economy where you had two different types of people. You had the people that stayed home because they were making more money on welfare and other extended benefits that weren't sunsetting depending on what state you were living. And then you had the people resigning from their current jobs because they either took better opportunities or they started businesses. So right there, what you had a giant chasm between most people. I can't go to most fast food restaurants outside of Milwaukee now because there's barely anyone working there.
Right.
So you have all this opportunity, you have all this free money floating around. And then that brings us into the student loan thing. And if I'm getting ahead, stop me.
Oh, no. Go wherever you want with it.
This is my first time talking about it. I haven't done an episode or talked about it at all. If you're going to get, and it still hasn't been approved. I think people are jumping the gun already, planning the party of their $10,000 that they'll go ahead and celebrate with. Don't pop the champagne yet because it hasn't been passed. But should it pass and you have student loans, good for you.
Right.
Why not at this point?
Yeah.
Because money doesn't matter anymore. Money's not
Right.
real.
Well,
We
it's
put
like
so much money. We put so much money into everything else. If they're going to do something for you, even though it's going to hurt us all later, take advantage of it.
Well, it's going to hurt you anyway. It's like we had talked about the stimulus thing. Yeah, we thought it was freaking retarded to pass this stupid stimulus bill, and this $2,000 that's not going to do jack for us personally. I mean, yeah, it helped for what, like 3 weeks maybe, but it's just like you get people that's like, well, if you don't believe in the stimulus bill, then maybe you shouldn't take that money. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm still going to take the money because I'm going to be paying for that money in the long run anyway, so I'm going to take the money. It's like the student loan thing. It's like, yeah, I don't got $150,000 in student debt, but I got a little bit of debt, and I'll take that free money because I'm paying for it in the end. In the end, my taxpayer money is going to be paying for it, so why wouldn't I take advantage of it?
This is a giant distraction. And I mean, people are like, oh, we shouldn't do it. Well, they're going to do it. They're bribing the population of their own money.
Oh, yeah.
And my thing is like, if your life is going to be drastically impacted by this in a positive way, you have an obligation to yourself and to others to make something good out of it. To try and generate a better opportunity because of it.
Shannon says, Remso, what about the 18-year-olds who went into the military because they're trying not to take loans out? What about
Sucks to be them?
What about that's what I did.
I did that. Yeah, like I did that. And you know what? Like, I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Everyone is a victim of this system. Everyone is. And I'm not going to be mad at people who are happy about this because I think they should struggle more. Everyone's going to struggle. The money's not real. And I'm not saying that facetiously. It's literally not real.
Yeah,
I've been saying for the past year, black people want reparations, fucking print it. It just goes to the same people.
Yeah.
It all just goes to Jeff Bezos at the end of the day.
It's true. It's absolutely true. My whole issue, well, first of all, back to what she was saying about the military. I've seen several posts that are like, well, the military already has an issue with recruiting right now. So if we take away this recruiting tool from them, how are they going to recruit? Well, then on the same token, what was it? Dodge and Chevy decided to discontinue their muscle cars. So there's another reason for people not to enlist because the young 18-year-old enlistees always buy the muscle cars. So if there's no muscle cars and there's no free college, why the fuck would anybody enlist in the military anymore? So this is a sad day
there are
for
barely any strip clubs anymore because all the strippers and Hooters waitresses went to OnlyFans.
Right.
So who are the young enlistees going to marry?
Exactly. Like what benefits really are there anymore for? I mean, they're trying to give away free healthcare. They're trying to give away free college. They're getting rid of the muscle cars, and the strippers are going away. So all the benefits of joining the military are just out the window now.
I mean, I would still argue the military, outside of very, very selected union jobs, is the only place where you still have a guaranteed pension.
Yeah.
I know several people who will be retiring as 06s at the end of 2021, and they're getting half their pension. Now, it was 20 years plus. It was a lot, it was a lot of time and stress, and they barely survived some of it. So, like, there's a cost to that. But at the same time, it's like they're looking at it from like the worst way possible.
Yeah.
What we need to understand is like, what's this going to do? Because the bills still have to be paid. The debt isn't just wiped off.
Right.
It's going to impact creditors. And if people thought that things were already kind of freaky, that inflation is still going up, and what is the Fed doing? They're rising interest rates, and at the same time in the economy, what we're seeing is stagflation, in which we're seeing prices go up to pay for employees, and that causes the price of goods and services to go up. But at the same time, people are not spending as much as they need to compensate for that. So now everything is expensive, and no one has money to buy anything.
Right. So to kind of play devil's advocate with the whole student loan thing, I mean, I thought of it, and it's just like, well, you borrowed the fucking money. Why can't you pay it back? It's the same with a mortgage. It's the same with freaking a car loan or something like that. But playing the flip side of that, I got this graphic here of the percent change in college costs versus the change in average wages for the last 40 years, since 1980. And you can see quite a difference there.
Well, fuck yeah, because they know that the government is gonna pay it,
right?
So they're hey, let's get that hot tub in the teachers' lounge.
Yeah, we'll throw in a freaking free car to every student too.
Right,
It's like when the federal government started guaranteeing college loans in the first place. That's when the freaking price of college started going up because they're like, well, we're going to get this money. It's like the housing bubble in 2008.
Right.
It's like we know
that's
these
why they
loans
have all new sports fields. That's why they have all new fitness facilities. I mean, it's just they know it's going to get paid, so why not?
So this to me shows like a scam in the education system to begin with. So when they come back, they're like, hey, you guys don't have to pay this off. It's like, oh, those poor colleges,
they'll still raise tuition.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
they'll raise it'll get paid again.
Yeah, they'll be like, because I've already seen people that are like, well, I'm glad this is getting paid off because then I'll go on to pursue my doctorate degree. It's like, so you're going to borrow
philosophy.
more fucking money.
Yeah, I mean, if people were making bad decisions before this, they're going to continue to make bad decisions.
Sure.
It's just like with the stimulus checks. You know, I used to be a tepid supporter of the idea of universal basic income. Because Milton Friedman used to say, if you go ahead and just guarantee people X amount of money a year, you can go ahead and use that as an opportunity to end the welfare state. It's impersonal. You get it once. You can't get more. It goes to everybody, so it's fair, and no one can complain. But what we found is that it doesn't. Everyone just complains. Everyone gets something more, and it makes everything more personal for everybody.
Right.
And it's at this point where it's like, you know, it's another giant wealth transfer. What we saw in 2020 with those stimulus checks and everything else, it went ahead and just made the rich richer and the poor poorer. And a lot of us just got stuck in between wondering like, which way is this going? Because the money seems to just be evaporating as soon as it hits us. I used my money. I used my stimulus check to pay my taxes in 2020. It was like they gave it to me and I was like gone. And it's like, you know, what the hell happened? I mean, just look at Amazon alone. I know I beat up on Amazon a lot. You've got like the Reason magazine libertarians who are frothing at the mouth, you know, getting ready to oil up Jeff Bezos's chest and stuff. But at the same time, it's like, you know, growing up, we used to say, oh no, Walmart is destroying our local businesses. And now what's going on? Oh my God, Amazon is destroying the local Walmart.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
And we saw saw that really hard during the lockdowns when the first stimulus came out. We saw, hey, this $250 billion or whatever, and like we did a side by side comparison of the money that went into that stimulus and the amount that Amazon's stock went up, and it was like virtually exactly the same because everything else was shut down. Where's everybody else going to everybody going to spend that stimmy money? It's going to be on Amazon because it was the only place to fucking buy things. Right. So we gave Jeff Bezos a raise is all we did.
Yeah, I took a gamble in 2020. I think it was in March or April when you saw the big COVID crash, as they were referring to it as, and then we had like the quickest recovery ever, like within a month. I took a large chunk of my savings, and this is within the same month that my workload was tripled and my salary was cut 10% at the job I had, and that was the only source of income I had. So I took a large chunk of my savings, more than half, and I went ahead and put it into a couple of companies that are within the S&P 500, and I threw it into a few S&P 500 oriented ETFs. And by the end of the year, by doing a little bit of trading, which I tell people not to do because I got very lucky, I walked out with way more money in the beginning of 2021 than I had initially invested. Now, am I telling people always buy the dip each time it happens? Absolutely not. I'd still dollar cost average every month, and I still have a good amount of cash that when I see those big crashes, I just treat it like a Kmart blue light sale and buy companies I would have bought anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, that I was a rarity, and compared to some people I know who I network with and stuff, I made very little money. It was a lot of money in perspective to what I was making and what I had. I look back and I'm like, that's not a lot of money compared to who I am several years later. But I mean, it just came down to like, what are we doing? And I look at where I was at at the beginning of 2020, I thought it was going to be the best year ever because I'm like, maybe I'll get a 1% raise. I'll get to go on a few trips and, this will be great. And maybe if I'm good within 2 years, I'll get promotion.
Mhm.
What 2020 forced me to do is what I think every recession does. And we see this in 2008, where we had many, many, many new businesses and companies spring up that we would have never anticipated. That was one of the best years for Netflix, back when Netflix was still mailing DVDs and video games to people. People
Forgot
forget that.
about
They used to mail DVDs to
Mhm.
you, and they didn't have late fees, and the late fees are what killed Blockbuster.
Yep.
But what it forced me to do is it forced me to take my life into account. And the truth is, if your life sucked when the recession wasn't here, the recession will make it worse. And if you can be comfortable during a recession, you will be more than comfortable when things do get better, because ultimately things do get better, because you got some people out there who are like, oh, this is the end of everything. This is the end of the dollar, the end of the United States. Here's my thing, man. If we're at the end of the United States, here's the truth. You're not here. You're
Mhm.
dead.
Right.
So then it won't matter whatever you do. So you might as well understand that things are most likely going to recover. They'll suck. We'll always have challenges. But this recession is temporary, whether it lasts a couple of months or a couple of years. We've seen multi-year recessions. 2008 was considered a multi-year recession. That was still, mainly Obama and McCain's fault. But
Yeah.
it's just how it is. So this is an opportunity for you to really make a giant stride in your life personally and professionally and ultimately financially. And if you fuck it up now, you might not get this opportunity back for a long time. And when you do, it's going to get harder, because for me to do some of the things that I wanted to do this time, as I was looking at opportunities and challenges, it's harder for me than it was a couple of years ago.
Right.
And I've got way more at my disposal now in terms of network skills, finances, and it's still a challenge, but it's a challenge I'd rather have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the student loan stuff real quick, because like you said, it hasn't passed, and everybody's freaking out about it in one way, whether it's a good thing or a horrible thing. People are freaking out about it. But I got this here that kind of, I mean, when you're thinking $10,000, $20,000 max that they're knocking off. I got this. This is somebody's personal college portfolio or whatever right here, and it says their original loan balance was $175,890.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, what did they go to school for, and where'd they go? First of all, they currently pay a monthly payment of $1,062. They've made 10 years and 4 months worth of pay. They've paid off $131,000, and their total balance is $8 more than the original amount that they borrowed.
Yeah.
They've spent $131,000, and they owe more than what they originally borrowed 10 years later.
Yeah.
Obviously, the $10,000 isn't even going to put a freaking dent into that price. And I mean, $130,000 didn't put a dent in that price. Yeah. So what if the debt forgiveness is not the solution? And I think we can all agree that the whole education financing system, the college financing system, is really fucked. What is the solution for all of this? If it's not debt forgiveness, what I guess
buy votes.
Well, I mean, how do you fix this obviously, this is just to buy votes, but if this doesn't fix it, is there a solution to this, or do we just encourage kids to go to trade schools rather than colleges? What do you suggest to people in these situations?
Two things. One's a prediction. The other one is a solution to the current situation we're in. The prediction is they are setting this up to fail because they'll go ahead and do this, and then they'll say they didn't go far enough, and then they'll complain about how it went, and then this is an excuse to push towards the total nationalization of public schools, of public colleges. They will all just become free.
Yeah.
Right.
And then your they-thems can go get their gender study degrees and everything else. And that's ultimately what they're pushing for. Sometimes government initially intentionally sets up things to fail.
Mm-hmm.
So then they can go ahead and say that it's because people didn't allow them to do enough.
Right.
And then they get what they wanted and more.
And you hear that in
And-
Congress. You hear like the Bernie Sanders, the
Right.
Elizabeth Warrens out there, like, or the AOC's like, well, this ain't enough.
Right.
Or what was AOC? She's like, $2,400 is $2,400, not $2,000.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you hear that from Congress. The Congress that passes it, they're like, this isn't enough. It's like, well, here comes more. Here comes another wave of it. This is just kind of like setting us up to. It's kind of grooming us towards accepting more government money printer.
So are the few conservatives out there that are like, hey, we gotta tighten the belt, if we're gonna get this deficit paid down. I mean, are they just like blowing smoke because it's like you said, money doesn't matter at this point. We're beyond like actual figures of money as far as like what we're doing and printing and the vision that our government has for things. It's like they don't care.
Remember that bill, that big stimulus bill that Obama pushed through in 2009 after he got inaugurated?
Mhm.
And I remember that the debt was under $20 trillion. It was way below that. The bill was only in like I don't think it was even in I think it was like in the low billions. It was like a few $1 billion or something. And I remember people saying that spending this would be like the end of the world.
Right.
We have passed like hundreds of those bills
Yeah.
between 2009 and just in the past month. And it doesn't matter. And it's only been within a decade. The Bitcoin people make me laugh because you have a bunch of people hoarding Bitcoin and, they're the hodl community and everything else. And I still think, it's better to have some crypto than not. That's just a side tangent. I've been telling my father that. It's like, Dad, it's better to have some exposure to Bitcoin and other stuff than not. But, it gets to the point where it's like, what's the point of being a millionaire on paper if you're still eating ramen noodles, living in a shack, and you're not spending?
Right. Well,
Because ultimately, Bitcoin's not a deflationary currency. That's its benefit. But I also think that's a economic pitfall for a lot of people because you got to spend eventually. And that's why I go back to cash flow. I have people who are friends of mine who live in the Beltway of DC who are part of the military industrial complex. They're contractors and they make a ton of money. Now, when you take into account where they live, lifestyle inflation, debt, and everything else, they're living in like a small studio apartment, still eating ramen noodles, even though on their taxes and everything, it shows that they're doing really well, but they're really not. And it's because they didn't go ahead and think about what they really wanted to do. Did they really just want to have the nice office and tell people they could buy a Tesla? Or did they want to buy back their options? Did they want to buy back their time? Did they want financial freedom? Because no matter what people want to do in their life, the truth is this: money is the most important thing in the world. It absolutely is, because it's the only thing that tells you to tell other people to fuck off. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how talented you are. I can feed myself and my wife, and I could probably feed my family if something happened to my parents or my brother or cousins or whatever. I can do that. I don't know a lot of people that can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that says a lot. I mean, you had talked about a couple minutes ago, and I was going to bring up the fact that you said 2020 pumped out more millionaires than any other year. And it's like, what does that like? What is a millionaire nowadays when inflation goes up with it? It's like being considered a millionaire is like 5 years ago being considered somebody that had $200,000 in the bank or something. Right. It doesn't really even seem like it sounds nice. Like my 12-year-old would be like, oh, he's a millionaire. But to me, I'm like, how far is $1 million really going to get you these days? Like
how many millionaires under the age of 30 do you know?
Not personally, none.
I know one, and I've talked to him about this, and he's somebody I served in the Army with. I won't give out his name because I've always told him like I want to use him as an example, but he wants to keep his privacy. But he went ahead and went to school, served in the Army, got out, went in some really hard times, and what he did was he went ahead and created a patent for a fire extinguishing system in massive semi trucks. because it was a problem of trucks catching on fire or something. I didn't really know, but he was a civil engineer, and he wanted to go ahead and do that. And Heil Trucking went ahead and bought the patent for that device for like 10 years, and they gave him a large suitcase of cash. And what he immediately did was he set up the contract. So every year they're giving him another X amount of millions of dollars on top of the large amount of cash they gave him. In 2020, when businesses were going under, when people were immediately selling off assets and buildings in his small North Carolina community, what he did was he went and got a couple duffel bags full of cash. And what he did was he went around town buying all the buildings and businesses that were for sale.
Oh wow!
And he turned it into like Pottersville from It's a Wonderful Life, except he wasn't a dick. But what he did was he went ahead and used that money to create so many different areas of cash flow, to diversify so much, to leverage debt. People don't really understand how debt works. Debt can be an asset sometimes. It sounds oxymoronic, but it can. And what he did was he set himself up so he never has to work again. And even after the recession, he built an orphanage. He did that. He built an orphanage.
Wow.
He donated money to a school in an Indian reservation. He owns multiple houses. He started other businesses. Being a millionaire might not be much.
He sounds like an evil capitalist.
Yeah, evil capitalists, all the orphans are horrible. I mean, that type of stuff. But it does still matter. Even in today's day and age, I would rather be a millionaire than anything else. And that's also the point of my show. The purpose of On the Run is to catalog my journey from where I was when I was just working, making under around 45 a year a couple of years ago, working in media, all my path to financial independence to try and be a millionaire before I'm 38, so I could be semi-retired and work for the things I love and not for money, because I have the options.
Right.
And if people look at this and they're like, oh, he said money's the most important thing in the world. Look at everything that runs your life. Everything we're doing is for money. It's about what you do with it that matters. But yeah, I mean, it's how it is. I would rather be a millionaire, and I think a lot of other people would, because in the days that are coming, when they're going to make us eat the grasshoppers and the crickets and shit, I'm going to be eating prime rib, and they will have to go ahead and pull that shit from my cold, dead hands, because I will not eat crickets.
And you'll have the money to tell them to fuck off.
I'll have the money to tell them to fuck off.
And
even now, I don't tell people I'm not, I don't want to make it sound like I'm anything I'm not. I'm not a millionaire right now. I have fuck around money, but you know what I do have right now? I have fuck around and find out money.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. Back to what you're saying about money being the most important thing. Yeah. It's not, money isn't happiness, but when you are spending your entire life making money just to survive and not having any time for any sort of happiness, then yeah, I can see what you're saying, that money is the most important, because then it frees up your time to actually enjoy something in life instead of just working your ass off, coming home, working some more, and then going to sleep and getting up to drive to work again. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, but money sure gives you a lot of room to have happiness.
It buys freedom.
Money can absolutely buy happiness. Have you ever seen a man crying in a Bugatti?
Only when he's probably about to go through a divorce and his wife's going to take his Bugatti. Right? That's probably the only time. So, I want to keep going. I want to get more into your personal take on making money here in a little bit, but I want to keep going with the federal government's fuck up of the economy and your take on that and how we can survive that. What's your thoughts on? We've talked a little bit about it. I don't know if you've talked about it. What's your thoughts on the Inflation Reduction Act? I put that in air quotes if anybody couldn't see that.
It does not do anything about inflation. I know that much.
What's really funny is even NPR, the most left-wing publicly funded radio station, they quoted saying, because this article is titled "What the Inflation Reduction Act Does and Doesn't Do About Rising Prices." So basically it says, it'll give you cheaper healthcare and cheaper energy costs, but it really doesn't do anything. It says the bill will make small steps to help bring inflation back to normal levels, which I don't agree with that. No. But it says the package, which was, first of all, they talk about it being a like cutting the federal deficit by like I think they said $305 billion. But if you look here, it says the package includes $369 billion in new spending, and then $300 billion in new taxes or new revenue. So I don't get where they get $300 billion.
It's the 87,000 IRS agents going and getting the money from everybody.
But they got to, but that,
door to door.
That's the $300 billion in new revenue, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how their math adds up to $305 billion in deficit cutting, but it doesn't make sense to me. But the key part here is it says it's unlikely the vast majority of households will see a direct impact on their taxes. And it basically said there's really no noticeable impact on inflation on this. It says the proposal won't help curb inflation dramatically nor right away. So why are we calling this the Inflation Reduction Act if it's not even going to curb inflation? Like, what's the point here?
Same reason they called the massive expansion of the surveillance state the Patriot Act, because who's against patriotism? Who hates America? I have a question before I answer that though. Are you two going to vote this November?
I don't even know what I would vote for.
Yeah. And I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to, because Republicans, I do not believe they're going to see a giant red wave. And if they do see a slight victory, it's going to be a trickle, kind of like what it was for 2018.
Yeah.
If anything, I think Republicans deserve to lose any shot at a majority more than the Democrats deserve to earn it, because no one is held accountable for the rioting and for the massive lockdowns and how they destroyed people's lives just 2 years ago. No one has been held accountable. I would be talking about that all the time.
Right.
No one's talking about rising crime. No one's talking about how meat is up 15% from just 6 months ago, how gas was $1.50 a year ago, and now it's more than $3.50 now. It's $4.25 where my parents are for regular unleaded. And they're not talking about that. They're talking about, well, the Inflation Reduction Act does this, and over time, and student loans. And it's like, shut the hell up. It's controlled opposition at this point. And what I'm getting at is nobody is coming to save you. This is not a God helps those who help themselves situation, but it comes to the point where you just need to look at people and say, we're done. This doesn't work. Some people are going to criticize me. They're like, well, Remso, if we all stopped voting, then they would take over and all this. I'm not talking to you.
They already
I'm not
did
talking
that
to many
too.
people. Yeah, like here's the thing. Some people are just going to be indoctrinated and pushed into slavery, according to the WEF. That's just how it is. We're not trying to save the world here, guys. What we need to do is we need to go ahead and get a bunch of Bugatti driving bandits. And I'm speaking hyperbolically, but this is really what it's coming down to. It's why they got rid of Andrew Tate from online. I mean, he wasn't kicked off because he whipped his girlfriend in a weird sex act that was consensual. He got kicked off because he was calling out the WEF. He was calling out Bilderberg. He was calling out all these groups. It's coming to the point where, listen, if you understand those things I talked about, which is create new and rare and specialized skills, have multiple streams of income, and have that entrepreneurial spirit to be able to turn cash flow on like spigots and everything else, you will be fine. As long as you have access to constantly reoccurring money that's coming to you, you're going to be okay. It's the people that are holding Bitcoin who, they're going to be living in a trailer hoping that those 87,000 IRS agents don't go ahead and kick them down looking for their hard wallet. It's those people I worry about. It's everyone else who's still just working one job. They don't have one side hustle. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Those are the people I worry about. But sadly, a lot of people aren't going to get it. I can't help those people. We can't help those people. But all we can do is understand for those who are tired of waiting for another political messiah to come, that, listen, you can't depend on another man, but you can depend on your own actions. It's about freaking time, because things are getting harder. Things will not continue to get better, especially if you do nothing to better your immediate circumstances. And despite all this, my life and my lifestyle is better now than it was before the lockdowns. And that sounds like a weird thing to say when you look at how everyone's lives have been impacted. But the truth is, if you control your immediate space, if you have as many options as possible, if you focused on those three things I've been hitting on, you're going to make it. You will survive. You will live. Okay. And you won't eat the damn crickets.
Go to breakthebell.bigcartel.com and buy our "I Won't Eat Your Bugs" T-shirt.
You don't know how much I love that. I must have missed an episode or two because I didn't know you were selling that.
Oh, I've been selling it for a couple months now. Let me see if I can pull up the actual image of it.
I love that.
It's one of my favorites for sure because it fits so well in what's going on. And the funny thing is, and I've talked about this before on the show, the funny thing is when I released it, I had one individual that hasn't talked to me since high school, that just happens to still be a friend on Facebook, and she private messaged me, and she's like, "What do you like? What is this? So like nobody's trying to make you eat damn bugs. They just want you
You
to
will eat the bugs, and you will live in the pod, and you will own nothing and be happy."
Yes. So, and she was like, they just want you to have more sustainable, agriculture. I'm fine with more sustainable agriculture. I fully agree with all that bullshit. But
you know what I'm doing, Craig? You know what I'm doing?
What are you doing?
It's called mental jujitsu. Escape the bullshit.
But then
Evade.
fast forward. Why is this not opening? Fast forward like 6 months later, and every article you see is about like drinking cockroach milk or eating cricket burgers and stuff. And it's just like somebody wants us to eat the bugs.
Yeah.
And all this crazy nonsense that I was spitting 6 months ago is actually real life right now. So here's the design right here.
I love that. I love that so much.
It says, "I won't eat your bugs." It's a picket sign, and it says, "Proud member of the Anti-Cricket Brigade." And that is actually, C.D. McRae actually said she's wants to form an anti-cricket brigade. And so, like, immediately I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm stealing your idea. And I stole it, and here's the shirt.
Count me as a member.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
Breakthebell.bigcartel.com. You can buy that shirt and join the anti-cricket brigade. So do it right now. After the show. I don't know. So yeah, where did we get here? What were we talking about?
Remso was doing his Klaus Schwab.
Oh yeah, his best Klaus Schwab impression. Yeah, you were saying that you were going to be eating your medium rare steak, and they'd have to pry it from your cold dead hands. That's where we left.
Are either of you part of the most prestigious exclusive club in America?
Which one's that?
Mile High Club.
I'm not.
Costco.
No.
Oh no.
They're
I heard they have really good hot dogs though.
Do they?
It's the only thing that can stave inflation, the Costco hot dog.
Yes.
There was a Bloomberg article, I think back in March, April, that was written by this economist that went ahead and said that, Costco might give you great savings on things. They might have a direct line to meat packers and manufacturers and stuff like that. But if you go to Costco, they'll give you free samples. And if you get the free samples, you'll be more likely to impulse spend. So you should cancel your Costco membership. And it's like, bitch, Costco is the only thing that has kept me fed.
Do you know how Costco, as a child, I remember it wasn't Costco, it was Sam's Club. My parents had a Sam's Club membership, and on Sunday, a lot of Sundays, we would go there, and they would buy a couple normal things, and then we would eat lunch by eating samples around Sam's Club.
I do that at Hy-Vee all the time.
Yeah, it's like, no, I just saved probably my family probably $40 on lunch because we just ate samples. We didn't buy any of that shit. We never bought what the samples were. It's like, you can find the sample. Bitch, I don't care. I just want, it's free right here. Why would I go buy it over there?
Yeah, I mean, Costco still has meat. And Costco beef and steak and pork has not gone up. There's always chicken available, whereas many local grocery stores have had a hard time doing that. And even if they do have it, it's gotten crazy expensive. I haven't had to pay gas full price like many people because I get my gas mainly at Costco. And it's been hard now because now I've got to fill up my wife's car and she takes premium. Okay. So, I've got a hybrid. She's got a premium car. We got to make it work somehow. And, once a week, we'll go to Costco because we live near it, and I can feed both of us and include dessert in the meal for under $8.
There you go.
And it's like, what I'm getting at is it's not a pitch for Costco, but it's a pitch for these people who are these self-anointed experts that are getting published in Bloomberg, who are going and speaking at Davos at the World Economic Forum. It has nothing to do with making your life better.
Right.
They hate you. And they're getting you ready for slavery and servitude.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. They are trying to make you do less so they can do more.
Yeah, how many crickets do you think those like elitists at the Davos meetings are actually going to be eating?
No,
I'd love to know.
When I designed this T-shirt here, my daughter saw it and she's like, "Why would they want us to eat bugs?" And she's 14 now, so I obviously have to mold her squishy brain because she's in the public school system. So I got to keep her questioning everything. So I'm like, because they want you to eat bugs, so all these rich people at the top, the rich 1%, can eat all the steaks. And she's like, why the hell do they? Or she said, why do they want to eat all our steaks? I was like, because they're greedy bastards. That's all I know.
Yeah, Remso, did you see the that little promo video for the smart city in Saudi Arabia? The line. Have you seen that?
The line.
No.
Oh my gosh, I wish I had that video pulled up.
Yeah.
It's basically this, like, because we did it years ago, like back at the start of the show, we did an episode about Agenda 2030 and how the whole kind of concept is to force everybody into metro areas and like smaller and smaller and tighter squeezed
like modern day feudalism.
Yeah, metropolitan areas, so that and then they'll pretty much lock us off from the environment, from like nature and stuff, so nature can flourish, and it'll basically be like only a chosen few will even be allowed to go into the natural area.
Wasn't it that Matt Damon movie where he has to go ahead and get up into that big rich person city in space so that way he can cure his daughter's cancer or something?
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about, but no, that's not what I'm talking about.
This Saudi Arabia introduced, it's like 150 kilometers long, I think, and it's like only like 10 kilometers wide. It's like really narrow. It's just a line, and it's like this mirror, like super like tall,
total self-sustaining city, and it's like built in a line, substructure on structure, and
the no access to the outside environment whatsoever, but you'll have everything in there. Yeah, this is being proposed
and
by
there's
Saudi
one way
Arabia.
into the city and one way out, and that's by bullet train.
Yeah, there's bullet train to one end to the other.
That'll bring in supplies.
What's with fucking authoritarians and trains?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, no shit.
Why do they love that shit?
But yeah, as I looked, the thing that caught me the most was there's no fucking doors on this thing. Where you're a prisoner in this thing, and you have, and it's mirrored too, so it doesn't interrupt the landscape on the outside. It just kind of blends. It's like, how many animals are going to run into that fucking thing to start with?
Yeah, right.
I mean, have you seen birds in windows? Imagine birds with these mirrors.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was sick though.
Just look at how many bald eagles have been killed because of wind turbines,
right? Or
no
bats.
Shit,
God.
God.
Or bats.
Well,
yeah, I mean, Dubai is doing this.
Really?
You know, I think in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, the UAE, Qatar, Kuwait. I mean, those are going to be the super cities of tomorrow, because what they're also anticipating is a day in which oil money will not be able to guarantee them the lives that they live. But they're also, and that's one reason why they're buying gold right now. They're buying gold because that's how they're going to be able to continue buy oil and gas and natural resources from China and Russia. India is doing that as well. I don't think India is going to be as productive because a lot of other things that don't matter towards this conversation, but like people are getting ready for a world where things are different. Do I see the dollar being the global reserve currency? I actually do. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Do I see the dollar maintaining its status as the global reserve currency 50 years from now? I actually do.
Really?
And here's why. It's because nobody else wants to have that burden. And, ultimately, what's the US dollar backed by? It's backed by our military presence. As long as we don't bring back any of the troops, because no one ever fucking does that. Trump didn't do it. Biden won't do it. Obama didn't do it. No one else is going to do it. As long as we don't do that, we maintain our global reserve currency status. Will it be as trusted? Will people find other ways to get around it? Of course, they're doing it now by trading gold. But, nobody wants that burden. Saudi Arabia does not want their currency, does not want their money being pegged to everything. And in many ways, China doesn't want that either. Russia certainly never wanted that because of what it did was it put U.S. sanctions on many countries that were not initially part of NATO. Look at most of South America. So I mean, I don't think anybody is going to want that. I think the dollar will maintain its status as the global reserve currency, but it will not be as respected. It will not be as strong. And its only reliance on maintaining that status is going to be our military presence. That's the only thing.
So basically, the war and ending the wars is never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's Sun Tzu. It's like, there no side benefits from prolonged conflict. So who's going to want that?
Yeah,
Like, nobody does, because they saw what it did to us.
Right.
How can we go from being the shining city on the hill to people not knowing what genders they are and, dealing with this shit? And now, like I know people in Indiana who are dealing with rolling blackouts in America.
Right.
Yeah. Well, California
really?
has been having rolling blackouts for the last
Texas,
20 years.
yeah.
It's like, but does California actually count?
Right. No.
No,
That's
not really.
really.
We are about due for a break. I do want to get more into your advice on how to make money. You keep talking about making money, but we want to get more into like maybe asking you some questions and shit. So if you got more time, we want to spend and ask you some questions when we come back. So we're going to get into break. We're going to take 4 or 5 minutes. And so refresh your drink, get back here, and we're going to spend some more time with the great Remso Martinez to talk about how to make that bread. We'll be right back.
Spank that like button.
Spank it hard. Here we go.
Have you ever thought that maybe voting, maybe all this politics constantly surrounding you is not the way to achieve freedom in your life? Hi, I'm Remso W. Martinez, and I ask myself the same question. That's why I'm on a journey to find true freedom in my lifetime. From learning about financial independence to new ways to develop rugged individualism to amazing guests living strange, crazy, amazing lifestyles that you've only thought might be real but actually are. Go ahead and check out my new show, On the Run with Remso W. Martinez at the We Are Libertarians Network. You can find On the Run with Remso W. Martinez on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. You know how the internet works. Come on down and let's discover how to achieve real freedom in your life together.
Hey everybody, I just want to take this time to give a big shout out to the very first sponsor of the Break the Bell podcast. That is Goulash Media. They can be found at goulashmedia.net. Goulash Media specializes in graphic design, web design, audio recordings, video work, wedding videos, music videos, even political campaign videos. Goulash Media caters to the little guy with the big vision. You can check them out at goulashmedia.net. That's GOULASH media.net. And we're back. We are with the great Remso Martinez, teaching us how to make some money in these economic shitty times. Remso, you're still here.
I'm still here.
Good. Have you? Did you make more money while we were gone?
I just have to think about it, and suddenly, like,
Money-
my phone just starts erupting with alerts, like
Nice.
dollar. Yeah, no, I
Just
mean,
willing
it's,
money into existence.
yeah. Just I think about it, and it just falls onto my lap.
Oh, is it? What is it? Satanism, where you can just will money into your life or
The
something. Like
Kabbalism. Kabbalism.
that? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Maybe we're following the wrong religions.
I think so.
Did you join the Church of Satan while in the last 2 years? Is that why you started becoming more financial?
It's kind of funny you bring up.
He did join the
Kabbalism. What's funny about it is, this is weird that you bring it up. Maybe everyone needs to look a little bit into it, but Kabbalism, I didn't know what it was at first because I thought it was like Jewish mysticism, but what it really is it's and I know this might piss some people off because it's a whole bunch of stuff, but if you understand the Kabbalah, what you begin to understand is that we live in a simulation, and that also makes people weird and stuff like that. But really, there are things about the world that you can look at and understand, like where the next thing is going to happen. Where are we putting our attention, and who is ultimately leading our attention into things. And what I began to realize is that based off where we direct our attention, those things have control over our lives.
Mhm.
And the Kabbalah goes into that. And to kind of drop that off, that when I began to understand that, it really showed me that my life was being dictated by a lot of things that I had no control over, and that the things that I gave energy to were growing stronger while I was growing weaker.
Mhm.
And not all of it was malicious. You know, I left partisan politics a long time ago, because even as somebody that had worked as a political consultant for a while, working with libertarian and GOP candidates, you know, those things became the source of my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I became disconnected from that I began to see that there's this giant game being played around us, and that ultimately consequences are real, but there's more beyond just what we see in front of us. And I don't want to get weirder. We can get into that another time. But
Sure.
what I will say is that, you know, if you want to look into a little bit of esoteric thought, Kabbalism is not, you know, it's not a cult, it's not a religion, it's just another way of seeing the world.
Sure. And I'm sure there's a lot of people like that.
I've sacrificed 0 children.
Okay, good. There's
animals,
and we don't have to
Zero
go down.
animals.
We don't have to go down this hole, but there's a lot of people that can't reconcile like Christianity with what you're talking about with like esotericism or whatever, because for one way or another, and listening to some of the things. I mean, I haven't like deep dove into it. I'm just like, I don't understand why you can't, quote unquote, be a Christian and take control of your own like destiny, like path in life, whether that's finances or whatever.
It's less about that. It's more about it's less about me being like in control of everything. And if we're gonna get into this, I'll get into this. It's more about listening, and it's more about listening to where God wants me to go.
Yeah.
And he doesn't
Absolutely.
lead us into temptation. He doesn't lead us into these things that are wittingly bad for us. He doesn't put us in those situations. We have. So how can we put ourselves in a way that we're in tune with that energy focus, in which we're benefiting ourselves, but at the same time we're benefiting others? Because it has less to do with us, and it has more to do with what we're putting into the world through our own actions.
Absolutely.
That's fair. And we'll have to deep dive into that sometime, because that's
my
really
gosh,
interesting.
Yeah.
We'll schedule another episode for that. But today, let's talk about making money, because that's what we're here to talk about.
Money.
Your Twitter bio says that you are a side hustle coach. Explain yourself.
Is that a pimp?
Yeah. Yes.
In some cases, it could be a side hustle for you if you wanted to get into that. As Butters from South Park would say, you know what I'm saying? But the big thing that helped me in my life was that I discovered very early on after college that I was not meant to be a business owner. I wanted to have a lot of things my way, and I quickly learned that wasn't going to be the case. I was entrepreneurial enough to have my own ideas, but when it came to actually managing a business, that, you know, starting a business, all that stuff, that just wasn't for me. I started a couple, and they were not enjoyable, and they weren't things I was really passionate about, and they all failed. But at the same time, I realized that I also didn't just want to be confined to one source of income through one employer. And while I'm not telling people not to be loyal to their employers, because I've worked for some great companies, I've worked for some shit companies, I work for a great company right now. What I wanted was I wanted other things that only I could provide myself. So through side hustles, it provided me 3 things. It provided me an additional source of income, where I could still be an entrepreneur, but I wasn't just relying on this, because I got my start in copywriting, which is writing sales and marketing and, you know, stuff to help people improve their SEO and stuff. Writing the stuff that you read that's not in the book. It's reading website copy, all that type of stuff. It's that type of writing. And what that allowed me to do was that allowed me to basically have my job where I'm I'm loyal and I'm a good employee to my employer, but I'm also developing other skills. And by doing that, I could go ahead and jump into this and I could negotiate with clients. I could set my rates. I can go ahead and have some people call it an entrepreneurial opportunity. So I went ahead and did that. So that provided me cash flow. That provided me an opportunity to really refine and learn new skills and try it in a real live environment. It was also great for networking. My side hustles completely replaced my job path because I was a political consultant for a while. I thought I wanted to be a researcher. I used to enjoy writing white papers in DC. I actually used to enjoy doing that. But what I quickly discovered was that I had this creator bent in my bones. I have a very creative brother who's an award-winning producer, so we went ahead and became full-time content creators. That really shifted me towards marketing and digital marketing. And it was through all my creative stuff, it was through all my side hustles, it was through all my networking and knowledge that eventually I just completely rewrote my career path outside of what I went to school for, outside of what I was knowledgeable about. So what side hustles do is they give people an opportunity to basically get to war game things that they might want to turn into a business, or just have as something that can go ahead and provide them the cash and opportunities that they wouldn't get from their regular job. People that want to go ahead and 3D print stuff, people that want to go ahead and do drop shipping, people that want to go ahead and do graphic art or editing or, proofread resumes. There's a side hustle for everybody. And in some cases, your side hustle can go ahead and make the difference between living a life that's all right and living a life where you've just got so much more going for you. So I'm not telling people like a lot of other influencers and finance folks to go ahead and quit your job and all that stuff. But what I am saying is I think you can do more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting some of the examples you bring up because a lot of people, even myself, you don't think of that as a side hustle. Like, I'm great. I don't want to toot my own horn, I guess, but I am great at writing resumes because I don't know. Are you still in the military right now? I can't.
I got out. Ironically, let me tell you this. I got out. I got my discharge from the National Guard the day my unit went to go spend a week in Washington D.C. in January of last year.
Oh, wow.
So you got out of that. But back to what I was saying, I don't know if you took this class, but I took this get out of the military and survive in the real world type class. And one of the things was learning how to write resumes. And through that, that's probably the one benefit that I've taken away from the military is I'm really fucking good at writing resumes. I wrote my wife's resume. I've proofread a couple people's, never done it for cash flow. So when you're like, oh yeah, proofread resumes for money, it's like, I could do that. I am good at writing resumes. So if anybody's out there looking for a resume or looking for somebody to look over a resume, send it my way. I'm really good at writing resumes.
$500 a pop.
There you go. So, but what I was saying is like a lot of the things you're talking about, just the examples that you're probably like, well, duh, why wouldn't you do this? For other people that haven't thought of that, it's like, I could do that, or I do that for free for people. So maybe I could do that for a little bit of cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what's great about the internet and the gig economy is that you can find a side hustle through just one question, and it's entirely personal. That's what makes it better if you can answer it correctly, because there is a correct answer to it. What is something that you see people have an immediate problem with? Something they hate doing, especially something that consumes time that they could easily solve if they just paid someone money to do it. If you can immediately spot a problem and you're willing to do it in exchange for cash, you just found your side hustle. Right there. The thing that I found very early on is that because I was in politics and media, you had a lot of people that were trying to start up websites that they can go ahead and monetize by placing advertisements and then use that money to build other properties that they could then monetize and stuff like that, subscription models and everything else. What helped me was that I was a blogger before I was a podcaster. Back when blogs actually mattered and you can find them on Google, I was a blogger and I could go ahead and pump out 500 words in less than half an hour. And I can go ahead and throw in all the SEO keywords. I'll link all the stuff and I could tell you how to promote it later. That's what got my foot in the door. And eventually that's what evolved me into copywriting. Then what I found out was that I was really good at doing the Facebook, as a lot of people called it. And, I realized that I could go ahead and manage and curate and grow a following and establish a brand and use that to go ahead and make people money. So I transitioned from being a copywriter in terms of how you could define my specific skills and the value I brought to being a social media coordinator. And then I found out how to merge all of that together to get attention, grow properties, and generate money online. And that's how I became a digital marketer. All this came through a couple of different things. Now, some people don't want it to be something that can change their careers entirely. But, I know somebody who went ahead and he bought a power washer, and he already has a 6-figure job. He owns multiple income properties, but he wanted to do more. And what he saw in his community is that you had a lot of people that were willing to pay quite a bit of money for a power washer. So he bought a power washer for about $450, got a website for 20, got a number for about another $50, put out a few hundred ads on Facebook. So he spent less than $1,000 to do this, and he made back that money within his first couple clients.
Right.
And he's going to be doing power washing for at least another couple months before fall comes. Did he need it? No. Is he going to quit everything he's doing to become a full-time power washer? No. But what he saw was he wanted more money. He saw an immediate problem that people had that people did not want to spend time doing, that they would willingly spend money on to solve. And he was like, I'll take your money. I'll do it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're willing to do the job that nobody else wants to do, why not? And especially when it's something like that costs so little money. So I wrote up a couple of concerns that people would probably have when it comes to getting a side hustle on top of their regular job. One of them I wrote was, I don't have the extra money to do it. When it comes to something like this, it's like, what, $1,000? Yeah, that might sound like a lot to some people, but when it comes to like the turnaround time, when you think about the benefits of it, it makes sense if you have the time.
I started all my side hustles with no money. I didn't even have money to buy a website. In fact, when I first started podcasting, I didn't even have money for a microphone. A friend of mine gave me $50 to go buy one.
Wow.
That's how rough it was. And I knew that I was good at writing and that there were a lot of people willing to pay for not just blogs and op-ed pieces. And this is where a lot of my journalist friends deserved to be broke in 2020 because I was offering them potentially thousands of dollars in contracts to do subcontract work, or I was just going to give them clients because they would write these 1,200 word essays on like conservative philosophy and things like that. But you're telling me that you can't write a sales flyer for a salon? One of my best clients for about a year was a Vietnamese nail salon in Toledo. Like, I never even met those people. So right there, I had a skill that only required access to the internet. I went on Fiverr.com and I said, I will write 500 words for $5.
Yeah.
And as my ratings went up and I got more orders and I had more consistent buyers, I was charging like $25, $50 for 500 to 1,000 words. And then I could upsell them on different things I was doing. And I would offer them bundles if they paid in advance. And Fiverr.com took about 13% off the top. I think they take more now. But it's like that got me started. That got me a portfolio of work. It taught me a lot about how to negotiate and how, what people were expecting. And eventually I made enough money. I just went ahead and did it myself. Most of my clients are client by referral now, which I want to go ahead and throw this out there. If anyone goes ahead and refers clients to me, I give a 10% finder's fee. So right there, that's a side hustle. Just finding people that do something, negotiating with them and referring clients to them. And you get 10% for no work.
I mean,
you can make a side hustle out of anything if you just get very specific and understand who has a problem that they need immediately solved that you would be willing to solve for money. That goes in business, that goes in everything. Side hustles are just that on a very micro scale.
So what about this concern? I already put 40 to 60 hours, 70 plus hours a week. I don't have time for a side hustle.
What are they doing wrong that they're working 40 or 70 hours and they're not making enough? I'm assuming they're not making enough.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if you're doing that, then you have bigger problems. I would say a side hustle isn't your problem. Your job is a primary income problem. You're not doing work that demands that you get more. So, I mean, I would really start looking at your skills. I had a client about 5 months ago who delivered pizzas, and he's delivering pizzas, more than 40 hours a week. And then he's like, oh, well, I just don't have time for a side hustle. And I'm like, you know what you don't have time for? You don't have time to continue doing this shit.
Right.
Because because now you're just a slave to your employer. Your employer is owning your time beyond what you would typically give anybody. So I mean, it's not that you have a time issue, it's that you have a skills issue. The cost, like if you think the cost of winning is a lot, imagine what the cost of failure is. And failure in this case is you not even taking that chance. Like, listen, an extra $500 a month dramatically improved my life when I was starting. And $500 a month can drastically improve the lives of many people.
Yeah, I mean, that's two like major bills right there. Just, I mean, like my wife got a raise a couple weeks ago, and it was only like $1 raised, and she's like, it's only like $40 a week. And it's like, yeah, but that's $160 a month. That's a bill right there that we don't have to pay, like that we now have covered that we didn't have covered before. So it's just like even a couple $100 doesn't sound like a lot, especially with inflation today. But it just knocking one bill off of your list of bills for the month is just like, that makes a huge fucking difference.
Yeah.
You bring up inflation, and I want to mention one thing on that. Like we keep hearing a lot of people. I hear a lot of potential clients and a lot of listeners on my show use inflation as an excuse. But the truth is, here's who inflation really hits. Inflation really hits governments. Inflation really hits rich people that have their assets in things that can quickly become destroyed because of inflation. Inflation hurts all of us as we're seeing it right now. But the truth is, a few extra dollars a month is going to change your life, regardless of how the inflation is. Unless it's Venezuela, like let inflation and taxes be a rich person problem. You need to make that money so then you can have rich people problems.
There you go. There you go. Then you can worry about inflation down the road.
Then you can worry about
rich.
inflation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you keep bringing up passive income. Explain to people what passive income is and how it works.
Passive income is money that you earn when you sleep. What you go ahead and you do is you create a product or a service that you can pretty much automate. And then what happens is you put enough active work into that product so that way it works for you without having to do much more. And a lot of people, they start thinking of e-commerce. They start thinking of, online stores and stuff like that. Those are great. Where I made a ton of my money, where a lot of my passive income comes from, is through dividend investing. In 2019, I started watching a channel by a guy named Andre Jick. I'll just go ahead and say I stole every idea. Andre Jick was a guy who came from a Russian family that worked for Circus Olay in Las Vegas. And they were constantly living paycheck to paycheck because circus performers surprisingly don't get paid much.
No.
So what he started doing was he started doing research on what is money, how money is made, and how the rich make money. And when people look at the companies that are on the stock market, and this surprises me because I'll be honest, a college educated person, I thought I was fairly smart. I didn't know what a dividend is. A dividend is basically a payment a company gives you during a profitable quarter, and they give it to you because there's a fiduciary responsibility to pay that to employers. Now, not all companies offer a dividend, but a lot of them do. And as I was doing my research and everything, I was like, you're telling me that I will get X% of the stock I hold just for holding it paid to me in cash every month? So I started looking at all the companies I knew something about, companies I wanted to learn more about. I narrowed it down to what I call a special forces team in my brokerage account. And I just started throwing as much cash into that, as well as dollar cost averaging over time, to basically go ahead and, long story short, I tripled my net worth within 1 year.
Wow.
And a lot of it was just through that passive income. So, my goal was, how do I go ahead and secure an extra $10 a month, because you have to have a lot of money invested in these stocks. Like it hurt at the beginning because I'm looking at my dividend schedule of when I'm getting these payments. And it's like, I put a lot of money in here, but I'm getting like 10 cents back. But the truth is, if you go ahead and you reinvest those dividends, you're going to go ahead and grow over time. So you constantly have your money working for you. And people don't often know this is how it works, because people just think that, like your retirement accounts and everything, it just grows purely based off the paper value of the stock that you hold. But the truth is, a lot of those companies are paying dividends that are part of your portfolio. So that gets reinvested back in. It buys more shares. So you're getting a compounding effect. So basically, the paper value of some of my investments doesn't matter shit to me. I love Coke when it's $70, and I love Coke when it's $40. Because I know that Coke is always going to be in demand. And I'm talking Coca-Cola, not cocaine. That's a whole different market.
That too is
but
always
like
in
I
demand.
know
That's
like,
always in demand.
I will always be getting a dividend payment from Coke. So I will always regularly buy Coke. So it got to the point where I was just like, you know what, this money's just gonna keep working for me. Reinvest my dividends. My investing strategy, which is often called a dividend tree, it was easy because I didn't have to do much homework. All I had to do was automatically take money out of each paycheck and toss it in there into a special forces bundle of individual stocks and ETFs. And I was looking at how much I was making by the end of the year. And it was like, oh my God, this bumped me up a whole new tax bracket.
Yeah.
I mean, just simple things like that. But real estate is an example as well. Real estate is the most profitable and the most common form of passive income for many people when you own a property and you rent it. So, I mean, passive income, I want to preface, just like when I was talking about dividend investing, it required a lot of cash up front. But understand, I was also doing this when I was not making a lot of money. I was making under $45,000 a year. And I was doing this. I was still contributing my employer match to my 401k. I was doing this as well. I had a Roth IRA. But my thing is like, you know what? I need as much of my money working for me as possible. Past, an emergency fund and everything else. That's one way. It's an easy way. But that's how the rich become rich, because if your money is not generating passive income for you when it's just sitting somewhere, you're going to work until you die.
Right.
So that's what I did. That's what worked for me. And eventually I got into other things as well. I got into different businesses. I got into other stuff. I still think that active money ensures that you're sharp and that you can work from anywhere, because your active drives your passive, especially in terms of investing. So, I mean, having both of those things constantly working, very few people will ever entirely live off of passive income. And you have a lot of people on YouTube that give this idea that passive income means never having to do work and you're living on a beach because you created an app one time. No, passive means you had to put a lot of active work into it. But there are days where I wake up and I see how much money some of my investments are bringing in, and it's like, you know what? It's fucking worth it.
Yeah. I mean, is that money you can just quick? I don't invest. I don't know much about investing. So this is like all kind of brand new for me. I don't know. Do you invest?
Yeah, I have some investments.
So, I mean, is that just cash that you can just pull out if you need to, or how does that work?
Yeah, you can. Once you get the dividend payment, you can pull it out. But what I do is I just go ahead and automatically reinvest it. So if I get X amount of dollars from Coke in a dividend, I just tell my account, automatically reinvest it in that stock. So my dividend is buying more shares. More shares are bringing me higher dividends.
So your dividends are earning dividends.
It's feeding itself.
So
that's how the paper value will grow, irregardless as to how the market is doing.
Right. Oh, that makes sense. I'm guessing you give plenty of this advice on your show, like dig a lot deeper into it. So, yeah, I don't want to spend hours talking about this. I could spend hours talking about this because, like I said, I don't know a lot.
How can I make you money, Craig?
Yes.
How can I make you money?
The real reason I had you on wasn't so you could tell our listeners how to make money. It's so you could tell me how to make money, Remso. So this is all like informative to me. And like I said at the beginning, it's like, what a better time to learn about this than now, when everybody is doom and gloom when it comes to finances, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to the economy. And from what it sounds to you, like this is the best time to get in and start making money. how back to that point, how is this shitty economy a great time to start making money?
People are getting so much stuff paid off through
Mhm.
federal loans and through other things. Like right now, people are getting debts paid off through taxpayer money.
Mhm.
And that's a horrible thing, but that's also a thing that might help people because like I said way earlier, if you're taking this as an opportunity to do something big, you're going to be fine because if you just think this is a one and done thing and you go back to your bad habits, you're going to be waiting for the next check from the government to come. But right now what we're seeing is that there's still a large effort of people going to remote work.
Mhm.
This is going to hurt certain parts of the country, especially in the Midwest where we're at. But America is largely a service providing nation. We're not a production nation. So if you can go ahead and develop a side hustle where you're using soft and remote skills to go ahead and make money, and by soft skills, communication skills, management skills, one of the most booming industries online right now, where you can make a lot of money just doing a little bit of work, not even part time work, like 4 or 5 hours a week, is being a virtual assistant for somebody.
Mhm.
And I mean that right there is big. Editing. I mean, just you think of something. It goes back to what I was saying. If you find an immediate problem that people don't want to spend time on, but money could solve the problem, there's somebody that wants to hire you. So what that also does is for many people that are still stuck in an office who are still they have to go somewhere physical. Like there will always be a demand for that. And maybe you like your job that you're doing. Like photographers still want to do that. But what if we're in another lockdown and all the
Mhm.
weddings are canceled and all
Right.
the birthdays are canceled and the reunions? Don't you want to have a fallback that you were regularly working on? So then that way, hopefully, if you just double down on that, that could replace your income.
Yeah.
I mean, it's about finding those opportunities because the other thing is a lot of people are holding money and they're looking to spend it somewhere.
Mhm.
And people are willing to spend a lot more now on new things that they wouldn't have. I speak to a lot of people who are starting podcasts now and stuff like that. So like if people were still willing to spend a lot of money on Christmas during COVID, then they're going to keep spending because here's the truth of a recession. A recession hits you momentarily. A depression is when you lose your job, but the holidays still come and Black
Mhm.
Friday is always black. So, I mean,
Yes.
it's not like we're living in the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's true.
It
So,
sucks. I don't want to diminish that.
right.
But like there are opportunities out there if you just start looking.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So you always see these websites sitting out there, like pop-up ads on Facebook. That's like the top 10 side hustles recommended for 2022. If Remso Martinez was to come up with the top 3 side hustles of 2022, I know it's not one size fits all, but what would be the top 3 side hustles recommended by Remso Martinez?
One is copywriting, and I think that's going to be the number one side hustle every year because most people spend more time writing a Facebook post than they imagine. You don't need to have a giant, dictionary of a mind to write regular website copy, descriptions, menus. I've written menus for people,
Mhm.
flyers, stuff like that. If you're willing to write, if you write competently in English, if you passed fourth grade, you can easily become a copywriter. It's
Mhm.
not about being the best sales copywriter out there. It's just about listening to the instructions from your client and putting in the work. And
Mhm.
eventually you'll write enough stuff. And I was talking to somebody the other day. They're like, well, what if my client doesn't like my work? Well, offer to fix it for free.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, it's just
Right.
basic stuff like that. So copywriting is always going to be number one.
Mhm.
Number two is a little bit more specific. I'm going to say it's becoming a virtual assistant because as more companies go online, as more people start businesses, they can't often go ahead and expand to part-time or full-time employees, but they do need like 2 3 hours of admin work done a week,
Mhm.
managing a schedule. I have a virtual assistant. I pay $75 an hour, but I cap her at 2 hours a month. So at most, I only really need her for an hour. That's guaranteed. I know I have an hour of work for you right there,
Mhm.
but I cap her at 2 hours. It's only $150. And that saves me a lot of time because that's something I hate doing. I hate managing. I hate cold emailing people. I hate the back and forth organizing communications. I'd rather just pay somebody to do that.
Mhm.
So, And I mean, that's $75 an hour. So she's not just working for me. She's working for a lot of people,
Right.
maybe varying rates based off the demand and everything. But like that could be a part-time, full-time job for many people.
Yeah, no shit.
So that's more specific. And that's men, women. If you have a few hours a week and you're organized and you can handle a Google Calendar and you can fill in the email template, you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one, dividend investing. The stock market's going to be here. It's not going to go kaput like many other people think. There's too much capital involved. There's too much involved to keep it going. The banks will always live. Things will change. It might look different, but at least in America, the stock market has always historically given more than it's dropped over a long-term period. And, just learning dividend investing alone not only taught me the basics of passive income, it taught me about a lot of industries I didn't really know I had an interest in. It's what eventually got me into the brewery business here in Milwaukee, because I understood what beverage based companies were working on. And it was a great tool, but it was also making me money. And I mean, it still reliably makes me money. It brings me cash flow. It builds paper value. It's an amazing thing. And most places right now, you don't have brokerage fees anymore like they had 10 years ago. They don't have brokerage fees, and you can buy shares in most of your favorite companies, depending on most brokerage sites, for as little as $1. So if you just have money and you don't have much time, investing is one of the best things you could do. And I'm not talking day trading. I don't day trade. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm not buying penny stocks. I'm just buying stuff in companies I like and ETFs I like. I'm buying Realty Income. I'm buying Coca-Cola, Pepsi. I'm buying, Iron Mountain and stuff like that. Companies that are going to be continuing to be profitable. And when I don't know what I want to do and I have some money, I just throw it into an S&P 500 ETF, because at the end of the day, that will always guarantee a positive return as long as I hold it long, and I'll still get a dividend out of that. Most S&P 500 based ETFs will. Your SPYs, your SPHDs, your QQQs and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's just, at one point I had more money than time, and that's just what I really doubled down on.
So I'm pretty sure a lot of these, like the actual side hustles that aren't passive income, the more active stuff like the copywriting and stuff like that, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are like, well, I could do that. I have a fourth grade grammar knowledge. Like they feel like they could do it, but they don't know how to get into it. Like, how do you get your foot in the door? Like, what do you suggest for people like that? Like, well, I can do this, but how do I start?
I start with the brokerage sites. I go to Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. I go to Freelancer. I go to Upwork. There's more people looking for workers than there are workers, than there are freelancers right now. And if you're just starting off, guess what? You're going to be cheap, and there will be people that want cheap, and there will be people that will outcompete you because they want somebody that has a 5-star rating. But that's how I got involved. I mean, another side hustle, just kind of give an example, is people just doing graphic design. I have done all my graphic design work ever for my employers and for my clients through Canva. Canva is a free app, and Canva can help you create fantastic things super easily. There are people on Fiverr right now who are offering to do graphic design work that looks professional, where the client will just go ahead and give them the description of what they need, and then they build it on Canva and they provide it back to them. Why? It's not because they wanted somebody who could be super technical but still deliver Canva level work. It's because they didn't have time to do it, and they need somebody to take the time to do it.
Right.
So literally, here's a free side hustle, folks, that requires not even any writing, just a little bit of creativity. Download Canva for free on your phone. Costs you nothing. Join Fiverr. Costs you nothing. Go ahead and say that you'll make 10 social media graphics for $5, and then get enough clients to get you a consistent 5-star rating of 10 ratings or more, and then offer multiple tiers where you'll do certain levels of customization, or you'll do higher packages for up to like, 10, 25, $50, and bam, that's all you need to do. It costs you nothing. You use something that is easily accessible, but is a professional level tool, and you just went ahead and guaranteed yourself a global audience. Because when I was on Fiverr, I was working with people in Mexico, Canada, the Philippines, Malaysia, Australia, England, Taiwan. I mean, it's a big world, and there's a lot of money out there, and there's a lot of people who will give it to you.
Yeah, I think just knowing those resources like Fiverr and stuff, like I hadn't heard of Fiverr, just knowing where the resources are to look or to find the work is probably a huge thing for a lot of people looking for it. Because, I mean, you could advertise yourself on social media all day, but social media is so saturated with everybody looking to do anything that it's hard to even get like a podcast getting some sort of momentum. So it's just nice to know those resources are out there. And I think just...
You could literally list advertising spots for your podcast on Fiverr.
Really? Did not know that. This is all news to we're learning. See, I only had you on here to make us money. One thing that you had mentioned when you were talking about Fiverr was doing work for cheap. And one thing, I used to do a side hustle when I was in the military, me and a friend, like it was, oh shit, what's the moving company? U-Haul.
Two Marines Moving?
No, U-Haul. Yes. U-Haul had like this app where you could get on and you could pack people's shit for them. You could pack their shit up for them. You could drive for them. You chose what skill you wanted to do, what service you wanted to provide. It was like packing, you unpack, you could be their driver, charge per mile. And me and my buddy got in on this. We signed up for it because, I mean, we're on a military base. People are fucking moving all the time. Oh, yeah. Surprise. Yeah. Shockingly, people are always moving. So we got in on this, and I would always set my price. I would look at the average price, and I would always set my price like $20 less than the lowest person on there. Not because I didn't think we were worth more, but because I knew, being a military person myself, I'm going to go for the cheapest option here. I mean, we had 5 stars every single fucking time, but I still, even as we got more and more ratings and stuff, I still was like, I'm going to set my price $20 lower than the last guy because it's going to guarantee somebody's going to hit on this. And I mean,
Did you get tipped?
Yeah, we got tipped all the time. We got really good tips. Yeah, and so I mean, it was work. It was hard work. Moving's not fun. I fucking hate moving, but I mean, it was good freaking money. I was making several $100s every weekend. We had something lined up for like the last like year and a half that I worked there and that I was in the military. And man, it was good freaking money. It was a good side gig. A lot of work, but again, like you were saying, I mean, to a certain point, you get to a certain point with your own skills where you're not going to price yourself lower than like some newbie with no stars, but pricing yourself a little less than somebody else that you think you probably might be worth a little more, that's still going to guarantee you more work than that person's probably going to get. Because at the end of the day, a lot of companies don't fucking care anymore about your longevity or your like they're... A lot of corporations or a lot of companies are looking for bottom dollar. How can we get the bottom dollar? How can we get the same thing for cheaper or something slightly similar for cheaper? And I mean, it might bite them in the ass, but when it looks good on paper for their corporate freaking board, hey, I got this for $5,000 cheaper than I would have going through this other company.
Yeah, so here's a tale of 2 clients. I had a client in January that gave me $1,000 contract. And I had a client that gave me a $200 contract. And ironically, the $200 contract client actually took me more time than the $1,000 client. The reason why I charged the one client $1,000 and the other guy $250 is because one guy really needed very specific information, and he needed very specific experience to guarantee that the solutions I was proposing to him were the solution to something he really needed solved. That's $1,000 right there because I have something very rare. And that didn't take me much time. Whereas the $250 client, at the time, I was like, do I even want to spend time on this? Because this required more time, but I wanted the money. The thing is, a lot of people will say, well, don't waste your time with small clients, go for the big dollar people. But here's what I was able to do. I took the small dollar client and I did the work because I began to learn about him. I began to talk more, develop a relationship, a rapport. And what I realized was that he's going to need this job frequently.
Mm-hmm.
So the $1,000 guy, I solved a solution for him one time. He never needed me again.
Mm-hmm.
But I did the work, even though it might be a little under me. And now I was able to develop a relationship with a guy where now that's an extra, that basically he set me up on a monthly renewal basis.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know what I have to do. I'm in a pattern. I now do it for half the time because I got better at it. And that's reoccurring active money coming every month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just because, like, yeah, like I did it for less. It took more time at the beginning, but I realized it's like this is money I can guarantee every month if I just, work with him a little bit. And
Right.
so far now, I don't even think of it. It doesn't bother me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you mentioned, which is, doing services like U-Haul freelance and stuff. One thing I don't recommend to people, and it's not that I don't recommend it. It's just that a lot of people are surprised I don't bring it up. Is delivering stuff for DoorDash, doing Uber and stuff like that. Here's my problem with those companies, and it's actually more on a moral level. When you're contracting with Uber and DoorDash and everything, even though you're a contractor, the one thing that I would say is, like, if you're going to go deliver DoorDash or drive Uber, you might as well get a job being a waiter.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because at least you get certain protections as an employee in case something happens than if you're a contractor, especially using one of your own assets like a car
Right.
as the tool. Because if something happens to you, if you get assaulted at Olive Garden, at least Olive Garden will, protect you legally to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get assaulted as an Uber driver, and I've met many Uber drivers who have been assaulted and robbed in their vehicles, Uber and the other one, Lyft, they won't do shit for you.
Really?
So my thing is, like, if you're accepting all the risk for not much money and you're using your own vehicle to get the job done,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, go get a part-time job.
Right.
Go do that. And one reason why I really focus on these remote skills is I think most people should have a balancing act in terms of where they're working. I think if you have a remote job, you should have some remote side hustles. I also think you should maybe go do something outside.
Mm-hmm.
You should go do some like labor oriented work, man a cashier a couple hours a week, go work at a warehouse stocking a few hours a week, and vice versa. If you have a job that involves you being in an office or, it's more labor intensive, you need a physical presence there, you need a job that you can transition to remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was unemployed at the beginning of 2021, I was still copywriting. I was doing email marketing. It brought me a good amount of money, but what I needed more regular reoccurring income that was more reliable. I went and I stocked warehouses.
Yeah.
Like, what did it suck? It sucked. I was getting paid $15 an hour though.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I know my hours are guaranteed.
Right.
So then, eventually I got a job that's fully remote. So I would still try and find things I could physically do. But, I think it's good for you as a person to still be willing to do both, to be able to work on site and be able to work remote, because things change based off where you are. Maybe there's no remote work available. You can't find it on ZipRecruiter or something, or maybe you just need to do something. I've seen a lot of people who worked remote who lost jobs or something or got laid off and they had to go work at like Target or something. It's weird how your social skills disappear.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It really is.
Really?
Whereas, I've been a cashier, I've stocked warehouses, I've been a mall cop, and I'm always doing something where I'm more active. I will still actually go out and physically introduce myself to potential clients. I will go to a business, say, hey, I see you're doing this thing. I identify a potential problem. Here's my card. A lot of marketers don't do that.
Really?
But I still do that.
Yeah.
So, I think having a foot in both things is fine. But my thing is, like, I want to mitigate risk. And I would never drive Uber. I would never deliver DoorDash. I would never do Instacart and stuff like that, especially right now. People are getting robbed.
Yeah.
People are getting assaulted. Like, America's fucked right now.
Oh yeah. I did. That's why Ozzy Osbourne's leaving, because America's fucked
it's
right
too
now.
dangerous.
I get it, Ozzy.
Yeah, right. I did DoorDash in 2020, in the summer of 2020, when all the restaurants were shut down, and I made a good amount of money doing it. In like 4 or 5 hours, I think I was doing like 3 days a week. I would do like 4 or 5 hours, and I was bringing in several $100s a week doing it. Now, what fucked me was on my taxes at the end of the year, because I hadn't done subcontract work in a long time, and I was like, I completely forgot that, hey, you got to set tax money aside for this shit. And so when tax time came up, it kind of ate up a lot of that. But during that, I feel like there are times when that probably is a good time to take advantage, and 2020 was that. I tried it again in the summer of 2021. I did it twice, didn't make dick in those 2 days, and I was just like, this is not even worth the 4 hours probably 3.5 of the 4 hours I was sitting in a parking lot waiting for a call. I'm like, fuck this. This isn't worth my time. I think they would give you a minimum of like $11 an hour or something like that. So, I mean, I was making something, but it's not worth the time that I was taking away from my family and shit. I'm just like, fuck this. So I'm not saying, I get what you're saying, that it's a terrible idea to do that when there's so many other options. I feel like in certain moments, you could probably take advantage. Like 2020 was when I took advantage, and I made a freaking good amount.
Yeah, when everybody was locked down, right?
Yeah, I made like, I think $2,500 1 month doing that. And I think I made close to $5,000 total in the summer of 2020, just driving on the side. And so I feel like there are times to take advantage of that, but overall, I would not suggest.
I would say for you, there's a real need for people to learn how to grow peppers. I think you would do awesome in that.
Not this year. This year, I did not grow peppers worth dick.
Okay.
The rabbits
But
ate
you
all
still
my peppers.
you still have peppers from last year.
I still have peppers from last year, yes, that I'm still eating. So I have that passive income of pepper production from last year that I'm still living on.
It's impressive.
But I haven't even dipped in the pickled peppers yet.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
But the rabbits
That
ate
would
all.
be good.
The rabbits
Yeah,
ate all
they're
my
good.
damn peppers this year. Like every single plant was ate.
Well, you got the
off.
dogs though to kill the
Well,
rabbits.
the dog just goes in there and chases the
Or
rabbits
you
and
trap the rabbits, and then you sell
Peppers and
pepper
rabbit.
seasoned rabbit.
There you go.
there you go, spicy rabbit.
Yeah.
No, the dog
Spicy
like squeezes through the gate and chases the rabbits and then pisses on the plants and kills them more. So, no luck this year on the peppers. So, but I still got the peppers from last year, so we're good.
There you go.
Where was I going?
But I had told my wife, because she's disgruntled with her job, and I was like, with technology being what it is, it's foolish not to try to bring in some kind of money using that. I mean, to market yourself with doing what you're good at.
I think a
whatever that
lot of
is.
people are scared to invest any little extra money or time into something like that. That's why I said,
Right.
that's why I mentioned the people that are like, well, I don't got any extra money to do this or whatever. It's just like, for some people, $500 sounds like a ton of money to invest in, to take a risk, I guess, take some sort of risk. And it's like, well, I don't see in the short term where I have this $500 to throw at something else when we have bills and inflation and gas prices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If I were to go ahead and put $500 in the power washing, I wouldn't know the first thing about it. Right? But the one thing I did know is that I was always good at writing. I was really good at it, and I could get a lot of work out of it.
Right.
And that's why I think people need to go ahead and identify the things that they're interested in. People produce jingles and stuff. I mean, there's so many ways to use the things that you're interested in to go ahead and use that as an opportunity. And eventually, you upcharge, you go ahead and raise your rates, you save some money. Like, the day I started doing short blogs for $5 3-4 years ago, ultimately allowed me to go ahead and write 4-figure checks to buy into private equity for businesses. And it's all because of that, how that worked. And, the one thing that, we've said repeatedly, and I'll just go ahead and, conjoin it this way, is the benefit is you get to eat the stuff you like. The cost is you're going to eat the bugs.
Yes.
So it's a matter of like, what's the cost? Yeah. Like what's the cost right now?
Right.
Like, there were people that went to like the Libertarian Party convention last year who had to go ahead and like, pull a HELOC loan on their homes,
Mhm.
or they couldn't pay rent. And it's like you're putting so much more time into stuff that's not going to benefit you. At least make some money out of it.
Right.
Right. And I mean, I gather from what you're saying, it's like right now, it's like a lot of people are tightening the belt. They're being more cautious. Now's the time to be bold and kind of go and like expand and try to do some shit.
Yeah,
Right?
and I mean, I don't want to tell people like buy the dip, go do crazy shit. It depends on what you're currently doing.
Mhm.
Like one thing I am doing right now, and I'm gonna mention this in my newsletter at remso.substack.com, is I bought I did a lot of investing the last 3-4 months when things were really, really low.
Mhm.
And now I'm at the point where a lot of that discretionary cash isn't there right now, but I also don't have plans. My thing is, if I don't have plans for how I'm going to use my money, yeah, I could lose it from inflation and, stick it in a bank account where I get like no interest on it and stuff.
Mhm.
But like right now, what I'm doing is I'm going cash heavy. Why? Because I already did a lot of investing. I don't have a lot of cash to go ahead and put in that stuff. I know I'll be better. And I think we're going to see some big changes that will then change my mind come January of 2023. That's coming closer than people think.
Mhm.
So like I'm dollar cost averaging. I have a fixed amount I put into a couple of investments that I like. And that's going to be done automatically, whether the market's doing great or wrong. I just know that if I just put in the same amount each month, as months that I'm not putting more than that, I'm gonna be fine because I'm still putting money into work.
Mhm.
But all the extra money I would put in to make those big purchases and stuff, that's not happening. And what I am doing is, I bought into a business at the beginning of the year. That's sitting somewhere. And that's going to grow in value over time. And then I went ahead and joined a drop shipping business that we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of capital into to hopefully get a return on come Christmas. And that took a lot of time from me. And the other thing I'm trying to do is, I would like more cash right now, especially as things are becoming more expensive. I'm going to go ahead and increase the number of coaching clients I take. I'm going to go ahead and bring on some more contracts from businesses and and content creators. Like I could do more work right now. I'm willing to sacrifice more time
Mhm.
than I typically would because I think that something big is going to happen after the midterms, especially.
Yeah.
And, we're going to be facing our first winter where electricity rates across the country are going as higher as 20%. And,
Yeah.
just being married, my electricity bill doubled. And,
God damn it.
like, I saw it and I'm like, shit, this is kind of crazy. But, like, I'm in a position where it's like, I'm only unhappy because that's a little less I get to put into other things, but I can afford it comfortably and my life isn't going to change.
Right. So we're about out of time, but last question, I guess, that I've got for you on my list is: what piece of advice do you wish somebody would have given you 10 years ago?
If you strictly follow your passions into areas where you're not different than anybody else, you're going to be like everybody else and you're going to be struggling. But if you follow your passions into areas where you have the opportunity to make a lot of changes and to pave a way for yourself and others, not only will you be more satisfied with what you're doing, but it will pay off longer term. I thought my passion was politics, and I thought that I wanted to go be a white paper pusher like many other people. But
Mhm.
what my real passion was creating content. But it wasn't necessarily always even creating my content. I loved the actions of getting to work with a team and getting to see a lot of things come together and learn skills that a lot of people did not think were going to be beneficial. I love being a digital marketer. And people are like, well, you talk about like, why you should, check to see if your bosses are worth looking for. I like working for my company. I love the people I work for. I like working for other people mainly. Like that's
Mhm.
my thing. Like
Yeah.
even my clients are my bosses in some ways. I have a good relationship with them because I'm a respectful person. I'm a respectful employee, a respectful contractor. But I keep myself moving and I keep myself constantly developing. And it's because I got very narrow with my skills. But one other thing, and I had to ask myself this recently when I had an industry shift from the nonprofit world into full-time digital marketing. Um, you can go ahead and stand out in front of a crowd. And I say this for a lot of people. I think this is a year a lot of people should switch where they're working full time because I think you could be doing the same job, maybe doing something a little bit different, but doing the stuff you really like for more money.
Mhm.
If you can
Amen.
go ahead and find a solution that that a company or business is having a challenge finding. You don't need to be the best candidate on paper. You need to be the best candidate who can relay this idea that you understand the challenge, you understand how to provide the solution, and that you can ease that pain for them really fast. Because that's all it is. If people are looking for problem solvers, and usually it's just a very immediate thing, and then later on they might have to figure out, what do I do with this guy now? The problem solved. But what you did was you just gave them immediate value, and what you're going to do is you're going to be able to provide that solution long term, especially as they grow and expand. So I think this is a big time for people to switch and find jobs. I did that. I love where I work right now, and it's because of that. I helped a lot of people find new work the last 4 or 5 months, because it was just like, you hate what you're doing. Listen, the best time to be looking for work is when you're still working.
You're right.
So you might as well find a place that will value and respect you more as an employee.
No, that all makes sense.
Yeah.
And it's all good advice. Everything here has been just
really good.
earfuls of good advice. I'm sure there's, like me, there's plenty of people out there listening that are like, wow, I never thought of it that way. I know we all hear it, but not too many people break it down. Like I see all over social media, hey, take advantage of passive income, but nobody sits down and explains like how you can do this, what you can do, how you can make your money work for you. There's podcasts out there, but you have to go look for them, people talking about it. But you talk about it a lot on your show. Why don't you, we're going to wrap this thing up. Why don't you go ahead and plug your show, your Substack, everything that you're doing, your services, anything that you want to
My
plug.
media fiefdom. Yeah, I do a show called On the Run twice a week, every Monday and every Thursday, where I talk about this stuff. I also talk about a lot of things going in my life as I'm trying to seek financial freedom, become a millionaire by the time I'm 38. I also do a Substack email list where I go ahead and put out all the stuff I'm doing, all the important news I feel that you need to go ahead and keep on your radar. I went ahead and put out another email this week where I gave a bunch of free apps I use that help you save money, invest money, and make money. And you get free stock, cash, crypto when you sign up for those services if you haven't used those already. And I also do private one-on-one coaching, because not everyone is the same. Sometimes you just need a little bit more work. I want to help you find that solution that you need so you can go ahead and rapidly accelerate your life. So that way you can get the money to buy back your time, to give you more options to deliver that freedom in your lifetime that you want. The tagline for my show is achieve dangerous freedom in your lifetime that you dream of. And dangerous freedom now isn't driving a Bugatti or jumping out of airplanes or going to Dubai. It's getting to barbecue with your family. It's getting to move out of a shitty place when the governor of California is saying that you can't go to your grandma's funeral. It's being able to move out of dangerous places when your country is invaded. It's being able to get out of a situation where your boss is gaslighting you.
Right.
It's the difference between giving your kids a good Christmas and giving your kids a Christmas that you don't want to give them. I mean, it's about achieving that again, and it's possible, and you can do it. Not when you're in your 60s. You could do it now.
I like it. Yep. You got anything else for Remso?
Yeah. So Remso, do you think with the way things are, and there's been this big push for side hustles, and the industrious people making that move, is it going to make a difference in the economy? Is the economy going to grow because of this?
I think a lot of people are going to do something that a lot of big industries fear, which is, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of people who started businesses no longer look at just a client base in America, but begin to look at a global client base. I see Africa being the next global market that is going to require a lot of people from the United States to go there and help with startups and businesses and provide, technology services and engineering services and marketing services. I see a large market developing in Africa, mainly because of China, primarily.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are going to see that. I think China's making it rise. And I think if Americans are smart, they're going to start looking at an African market base for their possible clients. I also think we're going to see a big tech boom in India. I think that's going to come sooner than later. So what I do want people to understand is that the economy is global. That brings challenges, But like I said, like I had very few American clients my first couple of years. What I could promise them is that I'll deliver it on time in English because I know who your client base is, because you're selling a product to an American audience because you want that dollar.
Right.
So, I would really just start saying, like, think global. And what that also means is that some people might decide to expatriate. We're seeing a large number of very wealthy people move out of the United States, even give up their U.S. citizenships. So what I think we're going to start seeing is we're going to start seeing a bigger divide, a bigger class divide. That is a real thing, and people need to understand that. Libertarians freak out about it, but it's true. It's largely created by the government. So that there can make them feel good. But it's like think about rich people problems when you have rich people problems.
Right.
If you need an extra $500 a month to drastically save your life, start there before you change the world.
Right. There's Remso Martinez promoting globalism at its finest. Remso, it's been awesome having you on. This has been quite the deep dive that I wasn't even sure where it would go, but I knew it would be good. So I was like, Remso, come teach us how to make money, because we all need to know that, especially in the world we're living in today. It's always a pleasure having you on, no matter what we're talking about, though. So thanks again for coming on, Remso.
I appreciate it, Craig and Bill. And I'm just going to throw this out for Break the Bell listeners. If you go ahead and reach out to me for a private coaching call and you mention that you heard me on this show, I'll give you half an hour for free. You can take a full hour and get half off, or you could just do the free half hour. I want to work with you. I want to surround myself with good people trying to improve themselves, who want to improve their communities, who want to improve their lives. So I just see it as a great opportunity to help people. So, contact me, let me know you found me on Break the Bell, and let's get some shit done.
There you go.
Awesome.
Thanks again for coming on, Remso. We're going to get out of here for this week. We are well over our time. Make sure you check us out all over social media. Check Remso out all over social media. He is at Hey Remso on Twitter, and I'm guessing on Facebook and everywhere else as well. I think that's your handle. Check him out. Check out his show, On the Run Podcast. It's a freaking awesome show. We actually still plug your show every single episode because we believe in what you do, just like you support us. So check us out. Be back here next week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Same thing every Monday. Otherwise, we got the Tuesday and the Thursday morning show with Dan Smots of The System Is Down, the Two Scoops morning news show. I don't know what it's called, but we just talk for 20 minutes about the news. That's about it. Have a great rest of your week. Thanks again, Remso. We'll catch you next time. We're going to have to deep dive into that esoteric stuff because that sounds awesome. Thanks again, Remso. Y'all have a good...
Take care, guys.
Yep, have a great rest of your week. Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back, because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remso Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.